Well, hello and welcome again to our reading of the Acts of the Apostles, and we're in chapter 27 and we're up to verse 27. And Paul and his comrades are in the middle of a storm, in the middle of the sea on their way to Rome. So we begin with Hos de Tesserakai Decate Nux Egeneto. Dia pheromenon hemon ento adria. Kata meson tes nuktos hupe noun hoi nautai prosagain tina autois koran. So when it was the 14th night, and then we get a genitive absolute, or perhaps a genitive simply based on that. So when it was the 14th night, us, dia pheromenon, this is passive, us being carried into Adria, on the Adriatic Sea, katameson tes nuktos, in the middle of the night, hoi nautai, the soldiers, hoop en noun. Now this is from hoop or noeo, is to suspect something, or to suspect. So, and it's imperfect. So they began to suspect. Now the Greek's a little bit odd in this variant reading here, but it's literally they began to suspect that the object of that and the subject of the infinitive is tina koran, that a certain land, pros again, was approaching them. Now we would normally say that they were approaching a certain land, but the Greek says the other way round, that certain land was approaching them, and there are variant readings for this because it's obviously caused some confusion over the centuries. Kai bolisantes, and this is again another one of these nautical words, and it means to take a sounding, take a sounding as how far down the floor of the sea is. So having taken a sounding, Huron, they found 20 orguias. Now an orguia is a fathom. So they found it was 20 fathoms. Bracu de dias desantes, literally they're having elapsed a little bit of time. So after a short period of time, also again, having taken a sounding, Huron, they found it was 15 fathoms. And so they're getting a bit nervous now, as the numbers are getting less, and fearing may lest poo, perchance, that's that indefinite poo, you see the accents come back onto the may, so it means perhaps or perchance. Ek pesomen, now we've seen this word several times, it's used as a passive for ek ballo. They might be cast against, trachus topus, literally harsh places, so i.e. against harsh rocks. So they were terrified that they were going to smash against harsh rocks. Ripsantes ek prumnes ankuras tesseras. So ripsantes, from ripto, to hurl, this is aorist participle, having hurled from the stern. This is prumne, is the stern of a ship. So having hurled from the stern of the ship 4 anchors, we get our word anchor from this, ankuras, e conto hemeran genestai, they prayed that it will be, they prayed for it to be hemera day. Ton de nauton cetunton fugen ek tu ployu kai calasanton ten scafen esten thalasan. So genitive absolute here. The sailors, not all of them presumably, but some of the sailors seeking fugain, to escape, ek tu ployu, from the boat, from the ship, And also kalesanton, having released, this is from kalao, to slacken, so having slackened the ropes of, having released the scaphe. Now we saw that before, that's the word for this lifeboat or this dinghy, which kept at the back of the ship. So having undone, having released the lifeboat into the sea, prophace is dative from prophasis, but prophasis can mean an excuse. So on the excuse hose that, and we get another genitive absolute without the outone, that they were about ektainein, literally to stretch out, so to put out anchors, ek proiros, this is from the prow of the ship. In fact, we get our word prow from this. So the two words we've seen up here, promne is the stern and prore is the prow. And I always make sure I distinguish between the two. The prore, the prow has got two R's in it, as in English, and the promne hasn't got two R's, so that's the stern and that's the prow of the ship. So they did that on the excuse that they were about to release anchors from the prow. Paul said to the centurion and to the soldiers, stratiotais, Ean me hutoi menos in ento ploio, hume sothenai udunaste. Unless these men might remain, this is aorist subjunctive, you can see it's aorist by the lengthening of the men to main from meno, unless these men remain in the boat, on the ship, you, dunasthai, you are not able, so thanai, to be saved, aorist passive, infinitive. And at that time, the soldiers, apokopsan, from apokopto, they cut off taskoinia, these are the ropes, they cut off the ropes of the scaphas of the lifeboat, kai asan auten ek pesain, aorist infinitive here from ek pipto, it's that same verb we've been having. This is from eao, they allowed it, ek pesain, literally here just to fall down, to be cast down. Acri dehu hemera amelen genestai. So acri hu, until the day, so up to the point when, this is the acri 2, you've supplied chronu or something here, so until the day was about genestai to happen, so until the day was about to dawn, Paul, so perhaps just before the day was about to dawn, Paul parakale encouraged hapantes, everybody, metalabane, to take, and it takes a genitive, to take trophes, to take food or nourishment, legon, saying, tesserakai dekaten semeron hemeran, prostocontes asitoi dia telete, me then pros labominoi. So the main verb is here, you have completed tessera kai decati, 14, literally you have completed the 14th day, so we would say you've completed 14 days semeron today. So today you have completed 14 days, asitoi, without food, prosdokontes, this is from prosdokao, it means something like looking out for, sometimes translated as living in suspense because you didn't know what was going to happen. So on this day you have now completed 14 days living in suspense, asitoi, without food, pros labominoi, receiving may then thing. Now, we get these interesting spellings. Instead of may den, we get may then, because at this stage of the language, the delta has been softened into a th sound, and so we get alternative spellings for may den and may then. And of course, in modern Greek, the delta is softened completely into a th sound, but it was happening already at this point. A little bit of evidence here of that fact that they're, well, perhaps not misspelling, but they're spelling may den as may then, because that's how it would have been pronounced. Dia, wherefore I beseech you, metalabain, to take, and it takes a genitive, to take some food, to take some nourishment. Tutoga prostes homeras soterias hupake. For this, hupake is, just like the verb to be, hupako. So for this is literally for your safety, for your salvation, for your safety. So perhaps, although this is present, you can translate it perhaps as a future, for this will be good, understood, for your safety. This will be necessary for your safety. Udinos ga humon thrix apotes kephales apoletai. For, literally, a hair of none of you, apoletai, future, will be lost, apotes kephales, from your head. So, not, in other words, in English we'd say, not a hair of your head will be lost. And we get this thrix, third declension, thrix, trikos is the genitive. Epas de tauta, having said these things, and having taken bread, Eucharistesan, he gave thanks to God before all of them, and having broken it, he began esthein, to eat. All of them having become euthymoi, so having become encouraged, literally of good thumos, so having taken courage, and they themselves also, for the kai here, proselebantotrophs, they partook of the food, the nourishment. Ametha, now it's interesting again, we, so this is Luke saying I was there, Ametha de hai pasai psukai, and all the souls, so we were, literally all the souls in the boat, diakosii, hebdome conta hex. So we were in total 276. Now this does seem a rather large number, and there is a variant reading, as you can see with that little index 6 there. The variant reading is 76, which makes a bit more sense. So removes the diakosii. So, but as it says we were in the boat, all the souls in the boat. We were 276, but possibly just 76. Koristentes de trophes ekufisdon toploion ek balomoi, ek balominoi ton ceton es ten thalasan. Koristentes is the aorist passive participle from korenumi, one of the rare me verbs in the New Testament. We're only getting it in this aorist passive form. It means to satisfy. So having been satisfied of food, so when they had sufficient food, when they were satisfied with food, kufisdon, from kufisdo. Kufos is light, and so this is the verb to make light. It's one of those isdo verbs of action. So they made light the boat. Ek balominoi ton ceton, having cast out. Now the ceton is generally a vague word for food. Probably here wheat, I think, in the context. So having cast out wheat, cast out the wheat, which was on the ship, into the sea, which would have been very heavy and weighed the boat down. And that is the end of that little section, and we'll finish off this chapter in the next video.